Welcome back. WSBA Morning News with Gary Sutton. It's 8:34 here on a Tuesday morning, and we welcome in Senator Pat Toomey, who's been pretty busy here the last few weeks. Good morning, Senator. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Gary?
Pretty good. You learned all kinds of new listing skills, I guess, here in the last week or two, and
boy.
So I just want to go back for a moment. Impeachment. You heard an awful lot in the last week. Obviously, the vote on Friday said we're not going to extend it on. No more witnesses needed. Your thoughts about all that and the whole process that you just went through in that regard?
Well, honestly, I think that this was a very, very unfortunate moment and series of events. The House pursued a purely partisan impeachment. You know, there was a bipartisan vote against it. There were no Republicans supporting it because the allegations don't rise to the level of an impeachable offense. I mean, there were two articles. One article accuses President Trump of obstructing Congress, and they want the president to be removed from office because he was defending the constitutional prerogatives that every president since Nixon has claimed, prerogatives to have private conversations with your closest advisors, for instance. The Democrats, weren't willing to go to court to challenge the president's claims. They weren't willing to enter into negotiations to determine which documents, for instance, that they were demanding that they ought to be willing to settle for, which is the way these conflicts have always been resolved. And none of that. The House said, give us everything we demand or else we're going to impeach you. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable. Yeah. But that was what they did. You know, the other article alleges that the president withheld funding and alleges that the president denied a meeting of the president of Ukraine in order to get them to agree to launch an investigation. You think about this. One of the two central charges that the Democrat impeachment and the House has made against the president is he should be removed from office because he met with the president of Ukraine in New York instead of in Washington. And that is an impeachable offense because it was intended to pressure the guy into doing an investigation. I mean, it's really unbelievable. So yeah. I'm glad we're finally getting to the end of this. We didn't need who knows how many new witnesses to drag this out and shed no useful information. We'll have a vote tomorrow late afternoon, and I think it will be a very, very solid vote for acquittal.
You have Senator Joe Manchin, who's saying that he's looking to maybe get a censure vote today. He may bring that up, and I know you all get 10 minutes today, starting at 9:30 to speak. He may bring that up today. Is there any sense that there be any serious consideration of that?
I doubt it. You know, I think people want to get this over and put it behind us and work on the things we should have been working on for these last couple of months while we were instead dragged down and distracted with this trial. So rather than launch a whole new thing, I think it'd be better to just put this behind us and focus on actually getting some policy done, like extending the expiring provisions in the tax reform that have helped give us so much economic growth, and doing something about prescription drug prices and working on an infrastructure bill. I mean, there's important things that we ought to be working on. I don't think it's a constructive use of our time to spend the next few months discussing, how else do we go after President Trump?
I was struck by something that Congressman Schiff, one of the House managers, said the last couple of days, and he basically said, well, if you don't convict him, that he is going to feel free to cheat again. And first of all, it wasn't established that he cheated the first time, but there was something said also, I don't know if it was within the chamber or outside the chamber, where he said, well, he'll cheat in another election, as if to say he cheated in the last election. And, people are kind of, there's an old saying, you pound a lie long enough and it becomes a truth. And your thoughts about that kind of language as we've gone through this whole thing?
Yeah, this is one of the very terrible arguments that Schiff has made. First of all, you're right. There is no evidence that the president cheated in the last election. And what he's really saying to American people is, look, we think that President Trump might commit an objectionable offense in the future, so let's take him out of office now. In what area does our criminal justice, does our legal system, do American principles work that way? Gary, we think you might do something wrong next month, so we're going to arrest you right now and put you in jail.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy, right?
It's like giving your kid a spanking for something they might do in the future. Yeah.
So a ridiculous argument.
Any preview on what you're going to say today in the Senate?
No, I'm probably not going to go down to the Senate floor. I'm going to be submitting a statement for the record. I've got an op-ed that's going to lay out my thoughts that'll run in probably a number of Pennsylvania papers. So I'll be very much on record, but I may decide not to actually do it as in the form of a floor speech.
And of course, you get to head into the House chamber tonight. You've got the State of the Union address tonight. What would you like to hear the president say this evening? What do you think he's going to say this evening?
Well, what I think the president's going to do, and what I think he should do, is take a huge victory lap. I mean, this economy has been fantastic. Record job growth, accelerating wage gains, record low unemployment, people's retirement savings at record highs. And very, very good prospects for the future. Mm-hmm. The president's and the Republican Congress tax reform, regulatory relief, appointing and confirming judges who actually respect the rule of law. This has been a huge contributing factor. The president deserves a lot of credit for this. I think he should take credit for it. I think he should point out how well so many Americans are doing and talk about his plans to build on this success, build on this tremendous economy. That should be the message. Should be upbeat, should be a victory lap and forward-looking. And I think he should just completely ignore the impeachment that's behind him. He's about to have a huge victory tomorrow in the form of an acquittal that may even be bipartisan. But I think the president should give a very optimistic assessment of where we are and where we're heading as a nation.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you'd rather he not talk about tonight. He has a tendency sometimes to, and take it a victory lap. You get a little smug, you can get a little, boastful, and
all of that is true, but that sort of thing tends to come out more in off-the-cuff comments.
Right.
When he's delivering the State of the Union address in the past, he has pretty much stuck to the script, and I'm confident it'll be a good script. Yeah. So if he sticks to it, I think it'll be fine.
Let me ask you this question, and just looking ahead to the future, and no one really knows the answer to this, so I'm just asking more for your educated opinion because you've been in the middle of all this piece of history. What is the postscript to this impeachment? We're in election year. We've got the impeachment vote tomorrow. We've got a lot of campaigning going on coming up in the next few months. What's the postscript? What's the story after this impeachment? What impact will it have?
Great question. It's a great question. I hope that the lesson is that this was a huge mistake. It was a huge mistake to try to weaponize the articles of impeachment. That is like the thermonuclear political weapon, right? Built into the Constitution. Never once in our history have we removed the president. Twice we've had presidents impeached, never once convicted in the Senate. It is a very high bar. That's what the founders intended. That's what the American people intend. And the idea that because you hate the guy in the White House and you can't get over the fact that he won the election, that's a really bad reason to pursue a partisan impeachment. So hopefully we'll go for a good spell without anybody getting this idea again.
Well, and I think also for future presidents, and it's a good point to be made, that you don't want to lower the bar for future presidents after Donald Trump, that because we don't like that president, well, then it gives us the right to have a second election called the impeachment process, and that's not what it was there for. As you said, it has a very high bar for a reason, and thank heavens we've been very careful about how we've used that over the years, even back in 1868 when we had kind of our pretty radical Congress trying to get rid of a president then who probably wasn't a real great guy, but he was still president of the United States.
That's right, and that impeachment conviction only failed by one vote, but it still did fail.
Yeah, and thank heavens for a guy like Edmund Ross who had the courage of his convictions at that time. Senator Toomey, great having you in this morning. I know you have a long day today, and we appreciate you taking time with us this morning. Thank you again.